Welcome, everyone. I am your host, Christine McIver of the Inspired Choices TV show, a show where we bring together people who are inspiring around the world. They're creating greater. And today, I have a wonderful guest, Joanne Del Core. Joanne is an emotional intelligence strategist. Joanne is absolutely amazing. And today, we're going to be talking about leadership, kids, and mental health. Welcome, Joanne.
Thank you so much.
I'm so happy you're here.
I love being here with you.
Oh, thank you,
always
sweetie.
Fun.
It's always fun. Well, Joanne, you are someone who impresses me. You amaze me, and all the things that you're doing. And you are so passionate about your direction in life. And we have known each other now for 10 plus years.
Wow.
And you have been forever driven.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. You have got such an intrinsic desire within you, and I want to share it with all of our viewers. So tell us where you are today, and then I'd like to talk about the journey that brought you to where you are now.
Thanks, Christine. That's a really sweet intro. I so appreciate it. I feel so seen by you. It's really beautiful. And I think that really ties into what a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today, but the sort of the being seen and the understood component to leadership, children, and mental health. But to answer your question, so I'm just recently finished up with my master's. I finished about a month ago. Hallelujah. It's been a long road, but I'm officially a clinician working with children. So I do therapy with kids, and I've expanded that realm of my work. And I'm also, doing work with schools and daycares, facilitating workshops, and really developing curriculum, also emotional development strategies for teachers in the classroom to build emotionally healthy environments for kids. Ultimately, my vision is to breed a really emotionally healthy environment for everyone, especially for kids.
That's
wonderful. Yeah.
That is so wonderful. Congratulations
Thanks.
on your most recent accomplishment.
Thanks.
You have been on this journey for many, many years. As I said,
Yeah.
you and I have known each other for 10 years. We took our professional coaching training together, which was a fabulous journey. And where did you start out? Where did your career start out, Joanne? Like even before the life coaching?
Oh, gosh. I'm going to say, I remember when I was 6 years old, and on my sixth year of birth, I remember wishing to be happy on my birthday cake. Like the family was always around, but I remember everyone saying to me, make a wish, make a wish. And I remember saying to myself, I just want to be happy and to help. And that was it. And I sort of knew that my gateway into living life was purely out of contribution for others. I just knew that. And so I sort of carved it throughout my life. There was a lot of moments in my life where I thought, oh gosh, I can't have a 9-to-5 job, but I did. Or, I've got to compromise this because everybody settles for a job with benefits and, that kind of thing. But at the deepest part of me, I've always wanted to give more, added more value to people. And so I began working with children at 14. And
you did?
Yeah, you didn't know that, huh?
No.
That's so interesting.
How did you do that?
When I was in school, the headmistress came into the class and said, we have a new daycare opening up across the street who'd like to be part of it. And I raised my hand, and they hired me at 14, and I was there for about 10 years. But throughout that time, that was such an evolving time for me because I really understood what kids really needed. Aside from being a kid myself, I was just really tapped and tuned into what teachers needed, because I didn't get what I needed mostly, and what these kids needed. So I had a big desire to contribute within that field at that age.
And then you graduated high school.
Yeah.
What was the profession you went into? You went into some very different professions.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which have all led you to where you are today.
Yeah,
but I find it interesting for people to hear people's journeys and how they can take a beautiful right turn.
Yeah, I find that too. I like hearing that from other people as well. It's never like a direct path. No. It's always so many zigzags.
Right. So what was the first big career that you went into?
Well, I'm going to say the magazine industry was the big piece. So I worked for Toronto Life and Fashion magazine for many years, and then decided after about 5 or 6 years that I was done with it. I didn't want to, I'm sorry to say this, pollute the world with information that I didn't believe was accurate or, or positive, if I'm going to say that. And then I moved to Italy. Okay.
Because that's what you do.
Because that's, yeah, exactly.
Being an Italian girl, you moved to Italy and you were there for how many years?
Almost 3. Wow. Lived in Torino and worked with during the time it was the Olympics. So I was working with the first responders there, teaching them English because I have a language degree as well. So, and then I was kind of done with that after a few years, came back home. Right. Landed a job as a recruiter. Right. Completely random again. Right. And just really decided that I was going to stop doing the 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and then finding something completely different. I'm a variety type of person. I'd like to do many different things. And I'm happy to know that as an entrepreneur, I can do that. I can be a consultant. I can be a therapist. I can be a coach. I can do all these different things. I can speak many languages and convey my message in many different ways to many different audiences in many different mediums.
So was the HR the last career before you went into your own business?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, good catch.
And so that was about 10 years ago that you went into your own business?
Yeah.
And you started out doing life coaching, correct?
Yep, I did.
And did you very quickly find your very specific target area?
No.
No, you didn't. How did that come about?
I just sort of rolled with the punches. Whatever came to me, I sort of rolled with. I had this desire to help people find their purpose, their passion, help to direct them in that way. Then again, I decided there's got to be more. I always wanted to go deeper, understand, much more profoundly what I was meant to do and when I'm at my most enrolling or when I'm at my most true self.
Okay.
And I found that what I really wanted was to just look at anxiety, and I was an anxious kid, and so mental health became a spotlight for me, or a direction.
Did you find, Joanne, that a lot of the clients that were being attracted to you, that were choosing to work with you, that was an area for them that was also jumping out?
Yeah.
That there were some mental health challenges?
Sure.
Tell me your definition of mental health.
Mental health, that's a really good question. I really don't like the term mental health to begin with, because I think that there's such a negative connotation to it. I think of it as like physical health too. It's sort of mind-body health, and how we view ourselves is, we're either going to hurt ourselves by the way that we view ourselves, or we're going to help ourselves by the way that we view ourselves. And that translates into our relationships, that translates into the jobs and the level of success that we have, that translates into the kind of parents that we're going to be, it translates into, it's sort of like the central focus. The mental health piece, if we're going to call it mental health, is the central focus of the individual and how they choose to see who they are. And how it's translated out into the world. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So I kind of got two visions that popped up. We have mental health, where it is oftentimes, as you say, a negative connotation. Like, quote unquote, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And then we go all the way over to the woohoo, self.
Right. Yeah.
And you and I could talk about these two things forever.
Yeah.
Joanne, how do we bring together the clinical mental health challenges and the very soft, gentle self-love? How do we bring those together?
I think that there's a lot to be said to that. There are many mental health professionals who look at the clinical, the label, let's understand what the presenting problem is. That's the term, the presenting problem. for this client,
Mm-hmm.
and let's treat it accordingly. And that's this is sort of where they get all sort of stuck.
Okay.
Then there's another component to mental health that look at the whole person and view the whole person in order to move them forward. I find, just because I'm not a huge person around labels, I find that even telling someone that they have an anxiety diagnosis is already a disservice. It's already creating a disservice. It's almost looking at the problem as the issue rather than the person, and giving the problem the energy rather than the person who's challenged by the issue. So the person is not the problem. It's the issue that is the problem. And I feel like sometimes clinicians get into that space of, because you have this anxiety disorder, you're the problem, and this is the problem, and everything is the problem.
You know,
and so
I heard someone say a long time ago, and I really, really love this. Instead of saying you have a mental health issue, you've been diagnosed with. This is what you've been diagnosed with. Doesn't mean that's who you are or what you have, but this is what you've been diagnosed with. And to me, and I'd love your opinion on this, to me, it's like it kind of pulls back from that being the center focus to, okay, really, what else is possible here? If that's what you've been diagnosed with, is that true? And how can we work to change that?
And I think too, it's like where you put your focus, that's what grows.
Yeah.
So decide, as a leader, as a clinician, as a whoever in the field, decide where you're going to put the focus for the sake of the other person, for the sake of maximizing the other person's potential. That's what I believe.
This is a perfect time for a break.
Oh.
So everyone, you are with Christine McIver on Inspired Choices TV. We're talking to a wonderful leader in the world, Joanne Del Core, and we'll be back right after this, where we'll talk more about leadership, kids, and mental health. Welcome back, everyone, to Inspired Choices TV. I am Christine McIver, and today we have a wonderful, inspiring guest, Joanne Del Core. And Joanne and I are talking about leadership, kids, and mental health. So, Joanne, before the break, you were telling us about your journey and where you've gotten to. And I would love to know more about, what does leadership have to do with kids and mental health?
Everything.
How did I know you were going to say that? Can you break that down for us?
Absolutely every single thing.
Okay.
I'm going to say this. I used to think that everybody in the field of childcare was a leader, but I don't believe that anymore.
Okay. Straight talk with Joanne.
Yes.
I like it.
Because I feel that leadership is, it's a skill. And it's almost like a parent. Everybody can be a parent, but not everybody should be a parent.
Yes, I agree.
So everyone can be a leader, but not everyone should be a leader.
Okay.
What does
a strong leader with childcare? And when you say childcare, what ages are you talking about?
I'm talking about anybody that influences children on any level. It could be a basketball coach. It could be an ECE. It could be a supervisor who supervises a daycare center. It could be a teacher, an elementary school teacher.
Can the children be like into adulthood? Like, can they be in their early adult stage as well? Okay, okay, great.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not talking about just young children.
We're talking about anybody that is capable of influencing.
Okay, and receiving
others.
Okay, great.
Influence.
So tell me, what does positive leadership look like for you?
For me,
when you see other people that you're like, yeah, you really shouldn't be a leader. What does that look like?
Well, it's fresh off the press for me right now, because I've had an experience of great leadership in my life currently, and really crappy leadership. And what I'm going to say is that the ultimate ingredient for leadership is empathy. That is the ultimate.
Okay.
And I'm also going to say that as a leader, it's helpful when you see the children or your staff or whoever it is that you're leading work positively, but you give them the credit, because you know that what you've done as a leader is you've influenced some sort of positive outcome And when there are problems, you take the brunt of it.
Okay. So oftentimes as a leader, people will choose to step into roles, maybe employment, maybe in some community, area as a leader, and they are 100% self-motivated, as in they're doing all of it for themselves. Now, I am a huge advocate of people following their dreams and their desires and choosing for themselves, big time.
Yes.
Right? But how do we recognize when someone is being 100%, it's all about them, and there is not the component to really contribute and create greater for others around them?
Like a litmus test, right?
Is it?
Yeah, for me it is. I know that so for me, I can tell if a leader has the intention to grow another, is that they're invested in the potential of the other, and that there is time. You need to talk, my door is open. Time is huge.
Right.
When there is no concern about the bottom line, per se, when there's no political agenda, when the leader is contributing for the sake of the growth of the other person, which is a hugely contributory value, like that is just a leader should be a mentor, should be someone who loves to grow others. And another leader who would sort of not have that on their agenda is sort of very task oriented rather than what was the word that I learned about? Intuitive oriented. So someone who's task oriented would almost be someone who says, "Hey, you need to see this person at this time, and you need to do this technique."
So it's if what I'm hearing is they have an agenda, and they follow that agenda to the T, and there's no availability to tap into your intuition and see what this other person requires,
right?
And
right.
to be able to move and
right.
change and switch and be on your toes, right?
And there's no elasticity in thinking, and there's no spaciousness in the partnership. When you feel more like you feel enslaved, you are with a leader who doesn't really care about your development, but cares about their bottom line, which to me is a leader that is a bad leadership style.
So when we have a leader that is really intuitive, is, what did you say, elastic in their leadership, when we have someone like that, what does the development of children look like?
Oh gosh, it's beautiful. It's like it's such a gorgeous rapport building experience with a child. I think that a child, I said litmus test before, but I think if a child is like the ultimate test, if you are able to make that child smile for a second, you have collected them and created an instant bond. And I believe that any leader who can do that, any adult, a parent, whoever, if you can do that without the attachment of this child being my child, or no particular attachment to that child, if you can do that, that is the ultimate sign that your influence is already being received.
I love that. One of the definitions of leadership that I heard many, many years ago that I love is a true leader raises up leaders greater than themselves.
Love it. Exactly.
And it really is about being there, supporting the person to create greater, not just accomplishing something on our checklist.
We often talked about this too when we did our coach training. It's like that coactive space, of that collaborative space where no one is greater. I've got strengths and so do you, but let's utilize each other to build the maximum potential of whatever it is that needs to be created. Whether it's we have this child in our care, what's your point of view versus my point of view, and wow, what a great idea, and let's include this idea with my idea too, know?
Right.
So, yeah.
If there's someone out there that is looking for the direction to become a greater leader, what would you suggest they start to read? towards?
Manage your own psychological state.
Manage your own psychological state. Is that something that you've gone through?
Absolutely. I think personal development has been my go-to since I was a kid. It's always been something in sort of the forefront of my life, reading, just learning, offering as much value as possible to anyone that you meet. And also knowing what triggers you, what doesn't trigger you, and your whole psychological state is where it all starts. That's where it all begins.
Within.
Yeah.
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 One of the very first things that I noticed about Joanne is how present you are when you're with someone. You've always been that way. And such a gift.
It's important.
I think that actually speaks to how much personal development you have done yourself, that you're able to be so present. It's beautiful. Joanne, if someone wants to get in touch with you and work with you or ask you some questions, how can they do that?
Well, they can just pop by on my website at joannedelcore.com, and all my contact info is there.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for doing what you're doing in the world.
Thank you, too. Thank you for existing.
Sure, all.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, so much for being with us today. Joanne Del Core is a fabulous, inspirational leader in the world. Do get in touch with her if this resonated with you. And if you're someone that is creating greater in the world, if you're inspiring and you have an inspiring message, please connect with me. You can email me info@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. And I look forward to having you join us next week, where we'll have another inspired guest.